Gunners supporters blows his whistle. George Moncur steps up and scores! Bottom corner of the net. The goalkeeper was very close, and it's John. He lets in a low cross, and a spin turn in, and Leyton Orient are back on level terms. Come to James, he shoots. Oh, and a goal from Tom James. That was a volley, and that was. It's a low cross. It's an inviting cross, and it's been turned in by Theo Archibald, and he celebrates in front of the travelling faithful.
The floodlights are on, the boys are warming up and the pizza's in the oven because it's time for a Papa John's Trophy fixture, and we're bringing it all to you here live on Orient Live. And the O's are facing fellow League 2 competition in Sutton, who currently sit 10th in the table, but will be looking to pick up 3 points against them in the group stages this evening. And there is E10 looking beautiful in the light evening dusk. And I'm joined pitch side by Brendan Pitcher and Andrew Butler, as we're going to be bringing you every minute of the action. And it's maybe not the most exciting of competitions, Brendan, but it's an exciting opportunity to see some new faces out on the pitch this evening.
Yeah, definitely. And going off Richie Wellens' comments on Saturday, he doesn't see it as just another game. I think he's a winner. He was quite embarrassed by the way he played against Oxford and how he played as a side and the result. And I think he's going to go into this one looking to put things right, given what he was saying he maybe got things wrong, maybe underprepared for that game, and he wants to put a very different result and performance out tonight.
And things are going so well in the league, still unbeaten, but yes, that fixture against Oxford was an outlier, but you know, as Brendan said, Richie will be wanting to keep winning no matter what and breed that confidence.
Yeah, I think the thing about Oxford is that you can write it off because it's okay, right, we're playing against a team above us in the league pyramid, so they're in League 1, we're in League 2, we made 11 changes that day. You know, we're playing against a Sutton United team who are also going to be, you know, on paper under strength as well, so this is a chance for us to get the win, progress in this tournament, which is something I believe that we want to do as well. So we can't be performing like we did against Oxford. It's a totally different game. Brendan's completely right about what Richie said on Saturday about the way that we approached that game. He got it wrong. He held his hands up and said, you know what, this one's a different one. We're going to approach it in a slightly different way. It's not to say that we're not ringing the changes massively, but it's a chance, and we need to be winning this a game like this.
We certainly do, and also the 3 points will keep us in the hunt for qualification into the next round. And as Andrew said, it's not quite as many changes as we made against Oxford, but there's been a few. So let's take a look at the starting 11 for the O's this evening. So the first change, of course, in goal with number 1 Sam Sargent in between the sticks. The substitute from Saturday, number 4 Shad Oji, returning as a starter. Number 8 Craig Clay, also who started on Saturday. Number 10 Ruel Sotiriou, coming back from injury, and he'll be looking to get some valuable minutes under his belt this evening. Number 11 Theo Archibald, he's been a much used substitute so far, but he's a starter tonight. It's number 12 Jordan Brown, making his first start for the O's and his first minutes for the club as well. Number 13 Jaden Wareham, and also returning from injury, looking to get some valuable minutes, is number 16 Aaron Drinan, the captain. He's not got a night off this evening. He's probably slipping in at centre back, but we'll talk about more in a second. It's number 18 Darren Prattley, the man of the match from Saturday as well. Number 24 Jaden Sweeney, and also making his first start for the club, number 40 Stephen Duke McKenna. And a strong bench for the O's as well, with Reece Byrne, Tom James, Connor Wood, Paul Smith, Idris El Mazouni, Charlie Kelman and Zek Obiero. So what do you make of those changes, Brendan?
Yeah, I think it's a stronger side than we put out against Oxford, and I think it's a side that can line up in a number of different ways. I think fans at home will be looking at the team sheet and almost guessing where the players are going to play. So I think there's a number of different ways it could go. I think the right back one's an interesting one. I think Stephen Duke McKenna can play there, Craig Clay can play there, Jordan Brown can play there, and then you've also got that front three which can be very interchangeable in terms of Aaron Drinan and Theo Archibald and Ruel Sotiriou. So I think it'll be interesting to see once the game kicks off how it all lines up and how it shapes up on the pitch.
Let's start with that backline and try and pick that apart and work that one out. We do think it's probably Darren Prattley sliding in there. He played a lot in League 1 for Charlton at centre back, so we imagine that's probably where he's going to be lining up this evening.
Yeah, I agree. I think with games like this, you have to make perhaps makeshift, but I think it's unfair to call it a makeshift defence because he's very, very capable of playing in that position. What I mean is that we've become so used to having Beckles and Happy in there, that there is that issue there of communication across the back line. Obviously Sarge playing in goal as well can also cause issues when you have such a tight back line in the day-to-day running of the club, and match on, match on really. In the league we're playing a similar very stable back four with Lawrence behind them, so it might cause some issues, but at the same time incredibly experienced player in Darren Prattley playing back there in a position which isn't unfamiliar to him shouldn't be cause for too much concern, hopefully.
And Jaden Sweeney of course has been shining in the back four the last couple games in Rob Hunt's absence. He's probably one that you have a lot of confidence in tonight.
Yeah, definitely. He's got some minutes in his legs, so that will be good for him. I think there's a few players in here who haven't played quite as much as they would have been hoping this season. They'll be looking to probably hit the ground running, but Jaden Sweeney's got that momentum. Like you say, apart from maybe the first 15-20 minutes in midweek against Rochdale, I think he's been superb since he's come in. He just keeps things tidy in there, keeps things ticking over, and for a player that, like Richie said in his interview last Saturday, hasn't had a real good run in this side ever before, despite being around the club for a while, I think he's done brilliantly in the last two games.
And he of course finished the game on Saturday. Coming in, there we go, give him one of them. He finished the game on Saturday with Shadoji at centre back. He came on replacing Dan Happy, who picked up a knock. Shadoji as well, he looked fantastic coming on, and Richie gave him credit for the way he's maybe stepped up his game. Yeah,
it's a testament to, I think, Dan Happy first of all, that Shadoji's minutes have been so limited so far this season, because last season, if you were looking at kind of some of our stars of the season, Shadoji would have been up there. Fans really liked the way he played. He slotted into that back three under Kenny Jackett and looked like a really good player. So for him to he probably counts himself a little bit unfortunate not to have played as much as he did at the back end of last season, and now was a good opportunity. Like you said, he played really well coming on for the last 20 minutes on Saturday, and now was a good opportunity for him to stake his claim.
The coaching staff are very vocal about the work they've been doing with Shad on maybe not dwelling on the ball too much, not keeping things a bit simpler, and doing a centre-back's job. We saw in the fixture against Oxford, he gave away that 5th goal. Obviously the game was done by them, but if he can iron out those mistakes, we know what he's capable of physically and on the ball. If he can become a good centre-back in the back four, he could be a dangerous player.
Well, absolutely, and I think it's games like tonight actually that you can look at a player and go, okay, right, not so much what have they got what it takes, because I believe that Shad absolutely does, but it's do they fall asleep, do they get caught napping in a game like tonight, which occasionally can test your concentration, because especially in a game like Oxford when we were already 4-0 down and he made a mistake for their 5th, you kind of go, right, actually no, the best players don't really make any mistakes in any game under any situation, so hopefully every player really for us can make sure that we're concentrating, we're constantly at it, because against Oxford it was actually the individual errors. You look back at all the goals that I think it was pretty much 3 or 4 of them you could say that player was at fault for that one, and it's those errors which we haven't seen in the league, which was what was so surprising, that in the league so far this season we've looked so accomplished at making sure that we're always concentrating, we're not making many mistakes. We have made a few, absolutely we have, but we're making fewer than perhaps we ordinarily would, and other clubs in League 2 would be making. So going back to Shad, I mean, I love him as a player. I think he's got what it takes. Physically he's brilliant. He was the 3rd or 4th most fouled player in League 2 last season because of the way that he plays. I'm not entirely sure that's the way that coaches will want him to play though going forward, but he is he's impressed since his loan spells, and he's been very good, but just needs to make sure that he irons out those mistakes in his game.
And you've already touched on the right back position. We're not 100% sure who'll be playing there, but I think it's fair to say despite the changes, Richie will still be hoping to concede fewer goals than we did in that Oxford game, and a better defensive performance.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the building blocks of a good performance. I think, like he said, he wants to improve on last time out, and losing despite the fact that we said it was a very strong Oxford team, and we were heavily rotated, still losing that heavily for a manager like Richie Wellens. We know the mentality he instills will have hurt him, so yeah, I think the building blocks come from the back four. We keep it tight at the back, and then we know what those front players can do.
And in those midfield positions, one of them could play at right back, but you've got Stephen Duke McKenna, Jordan Brown, Craig Clay, and potentially Darren Prattley, but he's probably in at centre back, we'll guess. But there's a lot of unknowns in that midfield. You've seen a bit from Jordan coming on, and he's looked good. Craig Clay's obviously coming back from injury, but it's different to the the settled midfield three that have been doing so well in the league.
Yeah, and I think, again, like I said about Shadoji, it's a testament to how well this squad and this side is doing that Craig Clay has found himself out of the side, and even when we look to close out games at the minute, it's Jordan Brown coming on ahead of him, and Craig Clay for the last 4 or 5 years has been one of our most important players. When he's got injured, we've been asking ourselves, when's Craig Clay coming back, because he is that integral to the team. So it shows how well we're doing at the minute, shows the strength in the squad, but we also know what Craig Clay is capable of, and tonight's a big night for him because we know what he's about, we know how much he loves playing football, and I think he'll be desperate to get back in this team.
George Moncur with a well-deserved rest this evening. He's played a lot of games recently. Do you imagine Stephen Duke McKenna might be that exciting midfielder to come in and play that role?
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, I think for Duke McKenna and Jaden Wareham, we will surely come on to very shortly. It's an opportunity to prove themselves, and okay, like games like this, you might have to really excel to then get promoted up into the team that's been performing so well in the league thus far this season. But you know, you have to take the opportunities when they come to you, and I think that's what we were lacking against Oxford, was any player who was like sticking their hand up and going, yeah, do you know what, pick me on Saturday because I'm clearly ready. So Duke McKenna is one, and Wareham is another. Like I said, we will probably come to speak about him shortly. But you know, these players, it's not really through their own fault that they haven't been getting an opportunity. I'm sure they're training as well as the rest of the squad. We've just had an outstanding start to the season, so they might feel frustrated. They come to a club and they're thinking, all right, I'll get some minutes here, and they haven't had too many minutes so far. But you know, you've got to take the minutes when they come to you and do your best in them.
We're saying about Duke McKenna there, I've just had to turn over my shoulder and look at the back four warming up, and Duke McKenna is in there as a right back when they're warming up in the back four. Don't know whether that's a bit of kidology by Richie Wellens, I'd be surprised. So I would hazard a guess that he's probably going to be playing at right back.
I'm looking over your shoulder as well, and it is Darren Prattley alongside Shadoji as well, so that probably will be the back four for this evening's fixture. Thank you, Brendan. Let's look at our attacking options now though. Andrew, you've picked up on Wareham, who we're yet to see him in action. You've got Ruel Sotiriou, Theo Archibald and Aaron Drinan, so unsure of maybe how they're going to line up as well. It'll be hard for us to work that out, and it'll also be hard for Sutton in the dressing room to work that out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, let's starting with Jaden Wareham. Like you say, he's a player who, you know, we haven't really had a chance to see at all this season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he kind of fits in and slots in, and whether or not he takes his chances or not. I think we've been lucky so far this season, obviously, to have such brilliant attacking options, but also coming into the start of this season, we had Theo, we knew what we could do, Paul Smith, Ruel, and it was only really, and Drinan of course, but and it was only Charlie Kelman, like, as in a new player, who were like, right, okay, let's see what he's about, and he's hit the ground running and scored a handful of goals, which has been, you know, absolutely brilliant, a real asset to our start of the season. So Wareham will have, we'll have a tricky. Are you going to kick that one?
No, I'll let that one roll by. The cameras aren't picking it up, so I realised. So with Wareham, he has to take his opportunities, and you know, that front three or front four, however it emerges, will be interesting to see how they line up, because you know, it's any number of options that we have going forward. Yeah, it certainly is, and I think it's testament again to how well we're doing that you've got Aaron Drinan on the bench, and at the beginning of the season, everyone was going, that's our goal's gone, but Charlie Coleman's come in and he's having a hard time displacing him.
Yeah, we've seen him come off the bench, and that's mainly been in a right wing position, so it's good to have those different options. Aaron Drinan, you'd say he was the most natural number 9, our most important number 9 going into the season, but he's been displaced now by the former Charlie Kelman, so he's been moved out to that right wing position. I imagine that's where he's going to play today, and we all know how important it is, and we all know how much Richie Wellens rates Aaron Drinan. We've all seen it, and he's the only player that he's given a new contract to in terms of a player that was in contract. So another big night for him, another night for him to kind of stake his claim.
And if we take a look at what Drinan is about, just to remind us, because as Brendan said, he's been coming on at right wing, but he was so integral to Wellingball when Richie joined the club, and this is what he's about, Andrew. Yeah,
I mean, he's a brilliant player, and you know, of course, he had that one kind of, I'd say, peculiar period where he wasn't, he just couldn't find the net for whatever reason, and it was still to this day a tricky one to really diagnose how far off we felt, and how we struggled to score goals and win games for that period of the season. But what he can do is really get in that. He's a great striker, great poacher of the ball, but also the goals that we're seeing here, he's capable of a lot. This is the goal that he scored. I can't remember who that was against. Was it Bradford? Where it was a great ball in from Hector Cipriani, who remember him. But he's a good runner with the ball, pacey, and takes his opportunities more often than not. So it's going to be good to see him back in.
And as good as it is going to be seeing him in action tonight, the goals haven't been as free-flowing in the last couple of games as they were maybe earlier in the season. If we can get him back firing in the league, we could maybe become even more dangerous, and tonight's a good opportunity for him to try and refine that form.
Yeah, definitely. I think Richie Wellens again alluded to it in his interview on Saturday. Teams are setting up differently against us. They're probably showing us a bit more respect considering our league position and the form we're in, and that's going to need different options at different times. And Aaron Drinan is a brilliant option to have, and I hope he can have a good game here and put a real kind of claim in for his place on Saturday against Barrow in that massive game.
And I know the atmosphere is slightly different to Saturday, but we have been unstoppable here in E10, and that game on Saturday against Walsall was no different. It was tough, but we found a way. Are you confident coming into another home game here?
Yeah, of course, and I think the game against Oxford for a couple of reasons, namely the fact that Oxford are in a league above us, so we're always going to provide a sterner test, is a totally different game to tonight's proposition, where Sutton have had a reasonable start to the season. I think they're still doing very well for the level of club that they are, and they're 10th in League 2, but we've had a great start to the season, and I think they've brought in some of their changes as well, so you can kind of tell how this game's going to pan out, and it's just up to us to make sure that we have the home advantage that we do have this evening to make that count.
Well, we certainly do, and we're going to be taking a look at the visiting lineup very shortly, but first let's hear the thoughts of Richie Wellens after that game on Saturday, after that fantastic 1-0 win over Walsall.
Before that, you got Sutton here in the Papa John's. How would you approach that game?
It's an important game, really important game for us. People will get an opportunity again, we'll make changes, but we want to be better, more organised, and it was my fault last time. We didn't, because when you play Saturday, you give them players Sunday off, Monday, second day recover with the one that's starting, and then because we've only got 5 or 6 of the starters, we didn't really work on anything, so we'll make sure we'll work on stuff on Monday, and the players are fully prepared going on. I think I left them a bit short change last time.
Sutton got to Wembley in the competition last year. They'll be taking it seriously, so it's one that you want to progress in?
We're taking it 100% seriously. Would I play the strongest team every single? I just don't think we've got. I don't want to risk certain players. You look at Dan App gone down today. I'm experienced now. I know situations. You can play one Saturday, and by the following Saturday you can have 4 different personnel because of injuries or suspensions. So we'll give the players that are training really well an opportunity to play, but we will also there'll probably be 4 or 5 lads that started today that will play as well.
Top stuff there from Richie, and don't forget we caught up with him recently on the Orient Live warm-up, which you can listen back to on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on our latest episode with a fantastic interview with Orient midfielder Craig Clay as well. So head over there and make sure you follow, subscribe, give us 5 stars and listen along. We'll also be live on Twitter Spaces every week before a home game, so make sure you follow us on @LOFC Live to listen to that as well. But now let's take a look at the visiting lineup for this afternoon's game, as Sutton are trying to take points off of us in the Papa John's Trophy Group fixture. In goal for Sutton, 13, unlucky for some, is Brad House. Hopefully he doesn't have much luck this evening. Number 2, Joe Barden. Number 4, Kobe Rowe. Number 8, Alistair Smith. Number 10, XO, is the captain, Harry Beautyman. Number 20, Josh Newfield. Number 21, Luke Gambin. Number 22, Joe Kizzy. 23, Charlie Kendall. Number 26, Aaron Pierre. And 27, Killian Kouassi. And on the bench for Sutton, Jack Rose, Louis John, Omar Bugle, Craig Dundas, Craig Eastman and Donovan Wilson. So they've had a fairly strong start to the season. They've had a strong couple of seasons now in League 2, probably going beyond what a lot of people expected them to do when they came out of the National League, but they're not an easy side to face.
Yeah, with the greatest of respect to Sutton, I think I come into this one not really worried about how many changes they make, because I think their biggest strength is the team, is the shape, is their management and their way of playing. And I think the manager has got them so well drilled that they play, no matter who comes out on that pitch, they all know their jobs exactly well. It's very old school. It's a straight up 4-4-2. They work extremely hard for each other. They're good at set pieces. They're so organised, and they're just a really, really tough side to face. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had another run towards the League Two playoffs again this season.
They are currently 2 points off, and Brendan's alluding that they're a strong side. Today will be a good test again about how maybe some of our fringe players will fare against League Two opposition that we'll be facing and battling with quite soon.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean Brendan's absolutely right. It's not like they've put a weak team out today. They're a very solid club that I think absolutely deserve their place in League Two. I know when they got promoted, there was loads of stuff about their pitch and whether or not they'll even survive in League Two, given how much time they spent in the National League and below for so many years. But they've come into the league and really proved themselves to being a really decent side. And again tonight they will provide us a decent test, not something that I don't think we can't overcome. So hopefully the players, they're danger men. I'm thinking of Luke Gambin, Joe Kizzy. They're both very, very good players that we've highlighted in the past, even on this stream. That hopefully we can just keep them quiet and do the job.
Hopefully so, and it's a competition that you'd think would take quite seriously, Brendan. They made the finals at Wembley last year. They'll probably be up for it tonight.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes into what I was saying in terms of they can make changes and they'll still be the same old Sutton. They're such a kind of well-drilled outfit. Matt Gray is a manager I really, really rate. To get that side out of the National League was some achievement to win it, considering some of the sides down there. But then to go on and get promoted and have such a good season last season that included this spectacular run to the Papa John's Trophy final, that they were actually quite unfortunate to lose in the end against a Rotherham side that ended up getting promoted to the Championship. So it's clear they take this competition seriously, and it's a real tough test for Orient today. I think Sutton are one of those sides where if you're just off your game a little bit, they're going to punish you. They're going to give 100% week in, week out, and they're going to be a real tough test today.
And as we've seen there, Andrew, some penalty shootouts as well. We've got the potential of it tonight, of course, in this competition. We've seen them score a few, save a few as well. Do you think the boys have been practicing that one in training for ourselves?
Well, I mean, it would be interesting to know if we have or not, because obviously the nature of this competition and the way it's structured does mean that penalties are an ever-present threat, if you want to consider them a threat. But we had a penalty shootout here last season against QPR that didn't go our way. I wouldn't be surprised if we've just had a few penalty shootouts. They're quite easy to do in training. So yeah, put Sarge in goal. It's a shame, Lawrence Vigouroux isn't on there, because I'm sure he might be keen to take one. But
probably win it with the whitewash and win 5-0. Hopefully that will happen anyway in 90 minutes. But of course, don't forget, we're back to league action this Saturday, and Sutton's not too far away. They haven't had to travel far, but this Saturday it's a different kettle of fish. We've got to go all the way to Barrow, and it's first versus second. It's a mega League Two clash. So make sure you head over to the Orient website to pick up your tickets to get up to Barrow in Finesse and get behind the boys if you can. If not, international fans and UK fans, this one's available for you to stream on Orient Live. So head over to the website that is on screen now and pick up your match pass to watch along with myself, Brendan and Andrew. So you'll get two lots of us in 1 week, you lucky people. And of course, don't forget, if you're watching along live on our YouTube stream, tonight is available to stream for international and UK fans. So head over to that same website and pick up your match pass to watch along. And it's just over 5 minutes to go until kick-off. We've spoken about the changes, but what way do you think this will go? Because yes, we've already spoken about how Tuesday night against Oxford went. It's hard to call which way it will go.
Yeah, I mean, I expect us to win, but I expect it to be a tricky game. I quite like that change in mentality towards this competition that Richie laid out after Saturday's game against Walsall, in which he said, "Yeah, I made some errors in that game against Oxford. I probably didn't treat it with the respect that it was due, in so much as making so many changes, and also just the way that they trained pre-match." it looks like, given the changes that we've made, given the fact that we've got Darren Prattley playing centre back, we would have had to have worked on that either maybe like briefly yesterday, but probably in previous weeks as well, just in case it ever gets to that stage. So, you know, they've clearly worked on the way that they're going to be set up tonight. We've got some real threat up top as well. Any team that contains Theo Archibald and Ruel up there is going to be dangerous. So hopefully we'll get a couple of goals, which is sort of something that we've struggled to do against Oxford in this competition, and give us a chance of getting into the next round.
And there obviously are a few knocks and injuries knocking about the place. There's a lot of players out there that will be thinking tonight's a great opportunity for them to cement a place, either if they're returning from injury or if they're yet to really show what they can do. There'll be a lot of that, and do you think that'll add to the fight that hopefully they'll show in this evening's fixture?
Yeah, there must be a really good place to be at the minute, that Leyton Orient training ground, because there must be such a confidence around the place, and it must be a really fun training session to be a part of, because I'm sure everyone wants to play on the Saturday. Obviously every footballer does, but especially when you're on this good run, and it's even a case of players like you mentioned, Rel Sotiriou there, who has been starting the last few games. He'll be playing knowing that he's got to play today, he's got to impress today, because his starting place on Saturday is far from certain. So I think everyone goes out there hungry, and that's why I think you can be confident that Orient will put in a much improved performance from the last time they took to the field in this competition.
Well, there is an 11 out there on the pitch tonight who'll be looking to show their worth and show Richie that they need to be starting on Saturday when we face Barrow. So let's remind ourselves of that starting 11. There have of course been a few changes, and the first one being in goal with number 1 Sam Sargent starting his second Papa John's Trophy fixture. Number 4, he came on Saturday and impressed, and he's looking to impress again tonight. It's Shad Oji, returning from that long injury. Number 8, Craig Clay, is back getting more minutes under his belt. We've just said about Ruel Sotiriou, who'll be looking to cement his place and make sure he stays there as well. Number 11, Theo Archibald, also returns from injury, with number 12, Jordan Brown, trying to edge his way into the first team as well. The loanee from Chelsea, number 13, Jaden Wareham, is getting his first minutes in an Orient shirt this evening, and another familiar face returning from injury, number 16, Aaron Drinan, looking to get back to full fitness and full sharpness. As we've confirmed earlier, it's the captain, number 18, Darren Prattley, who will be starting at centre back, it looks, alongside Shad Oji this evening. And number 24, Saturday's man of the match, Jaden Sweeney, is in at left back, and by the looks of things, number 40, Stephen Duke McKenna, is slotting in at right back. I'm sure he'll be looking to impress further up the field as well as defensively. And on the bench, Reece Burns, Tom James, Connor Wood, Paul Smith, Idris El Mazouni, Charlie Kelman, and Zek Obiero. And the crowd goes wild, and Tijuana Taxi rings out around Brisbane Road. So it is now time to pass over to our match commentary team of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.